Now let's examine the man Job in Job chapter 1 verse 21, and said, naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord had taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Let's look at some of the scriptures you wrongly heard before you got born again, and some of them you heard when you got born again. Like Job 121 is quoted in so many funeral ceremonies all over the world, in the church world. Job 121, the Lord has given and the Lord has taken away, and it has built a conception of God, that God is a giver and a taker. So when a woman is sick, and maybe by reason of sickness she has breast cancer, and then now they want to take out the breast, she will say, well, you know, God gave me 2 pairs of breasts and he has taken one out. Blessed be his holy name. It makes no sense. God gave me 2 children but has taken one back. Blessed be his holy name. It makes no sense. God cannot be the giver and the taker away. If he's going to take it away, why did he give you in the first place? Why? There's no point giving you. But it is because people have not read. Because if they have read, they will have known that the gifts of God are without repentance. That when God gives you, he gives. He doesn't give to take. He gives to give. He does not give to take. Now stay with me, because we're going to do some exegesis on that. Look at Job again, chapter 2 verse 10. But he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God, and shall we not receive evil? In all these did not Job sin with his lips. Yet from Genesis we saw that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. There's no evil in God. So now Job says, God gives, God takes. Job says, should we expect only good from God and not evil from God? Are you seeing Job's assumptions? Now, please stay with me. God is light, no confusion in God. Now, whoever wrote the book of Job, because there's theological debate on who wrote the book of Job, and I don't want to get into that, but whoever wrote the book of Job, the story presents itself. And if you're not careful, you will miss what the writer of the book of Job was communicating. The story presents Job as an upright man and perfect. Look at Job chapter 1 verse 1. Let's walk now. There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job. And that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil. The word perfect there is the Hebrew word tam. It means he was peaceful. Perfect doesn't mean he was sinless. Perfect didn't mean he was perfect in the sense of perfect. It just means he was a peaceful man. He doesn't fight. Okay? Perfect doesn't mean he was knowledgeable or sinless. No. You know, I told you that the Old Testament is very honest about the frailty of all Bible characters, so that everyone can look unto Jesus alone. Abraham told lies. Abraham gave his wife to another man for adultery. Abraham, all kinds of things. Yet he was a righteous man by faith. David was a murderer. He killed, yet he was a prophet, priest, and king. You know, we can go on and on. We can go on and on. All of them had frailties and weaknesses and shortcomings. And the reason why the Bible is very clear about the characters of the people that were called righteous in the scriptures is so that we can look up to Jesus alone. So that no one has a right of entitlement. And that was one of Job's challenges. Job was a self-righteous person. Self-righteous person. Thinking that with all of his prayer life, his self-righteousness, Job was given to what I call works mentality. Now the word upright, he was perfect, which means peaceful. He doesn't fight. The word upright is harmless. It implies he was morally good. What you call a good person. He was morally good. That's the meaning of upright. The word perfect there is from another Hebrew word, taman, taken from tam. It is used for Job 7 times out of the 14 times in the book of Job. That word perfect, which is, the word for morally good. Look at Job chapter 1 verse 8. You will see that word applied. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright? And if you read, you will see that word used in Job chapter 2 verse 3. If you're writing for study, Job chapter 2 verse 3. Job chapter 8 verse 20. Job chapter 9 verse 20. Job chapter 9 verse 21 and 22. Job chapter 22 verse 3. If you read, it kept saying he was perfect and upright. Perfect and upright, which means moral. It also means he was not a troublesome person. And that is why in chapter 42 verse 6, Job repented. Let's see a little more about Job. Job chapter 1 verse 3. Pay attention. His substance also was 7,000 sheep and 3,000 camels and 500 yoke of oxen and 500 she-asses and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the east. So this Job was great in substance. He had wealth. He was a rich guy. He was not a small boy. He had children that were adults. He was a big man. Look at verse 4 of Job chapter 1. Let's look at a little bit of Job. And his sons went and feasted in their houses, everyone his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and to drink with them. Look at the presumption of Job in verse 5. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them and rose up early in the morning. Those of you that come from religious homes, they wake you up 5 a.m. for family prayer. 5 a.m. every day. Whether you know God or you don't know God, whether you know who you're praying to or not, it's just a culture, it's just a tradition. That's what was happening in the house of Job. And rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, this is why he was doing what he was doing. For Job said, it may be, another assumption, it may be, he's not even sure, it may be that my sons have sinned and caused God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually. So he was doing a particular ritual because of assumption. Because of assumption. The first thing is, if Job had read the scriptures and had the oracles of the Old Testament, he should have read Abraham in Genesis, where Abraham was going to Mount Moriah with Isaac. And Isaac looked at the father and said, I see the wood, I see the fire. Where is the lamb? And Abraham said, God shall provide himself an animal for sacrifice. Job wouldn't have been sacrificing, because man does not have any sacrifice that can settle the matter of sin. So only God will provide an animal that will be sacrificed to take care of man's sin. But because Job did not read and pay attention, Job was busy offering sacrifices that did not have any spiritual value.